A wise man climbs Mount Fuji once, but only a fool climbs it twice. From Kyoto to Osaka, from Tokyo to Hiroshima, that is a sentiment that was repeated to me every time we said that part of our plan in Japan was to climb Mount Fuji. And just to be clear, that means for decades, perhaps centuries, the Japanese have had a proverb that says climbing Mount Fuji is a one and done. And that's not high praise for any experience. I feel the same way. Again, hi, I'm Chris. I'm your reluctant hiker. I don't actually enjoy hiking, but for some reason I keep doing it. And so Mount Fuji, I'm going to say, is not for everybody. I do think there are two groups of people that I would recommend a hike up Mount Fuji for. But as far as the casual hiker, I think there's better things that you can do. Now, just to be very transparent, there's going to be a couple of things that will tint my opinion of Mount Fuji. The first is that we were supposed to take 2 days to climb Mount Fuji, but a typhoon was rolling in and the hiking guides called and told us either you climb it in 1 day up and down or you don't climb it at all. The other thing is that the typhoon brought in weather. When we started our hike, it was clear and you could get a sense of the scenery, but by the time we got to the top, we were just completely clouded in. Another thing that's going to tint my review is that we climbed up the Fuji no Miya route, which is the shortest and steepest route, and we climbed down another route, which the name escapes me, but I'll put it on the screen. And so I believe there are 4 established routes to climb Mount Fuji. I've only done 2, and so I'm not going to claim to be an expert. Now, I've returned home and it's been about a month since I've climbed Mount Fuji, and I actually think it's a good thing that I've taken that time before doing this review because it's given me a little bit more perspective, a little bit more respect for the mountain, because originally I was going to say that it's not a difficult hike. It's unpleasant. Unpleasant terrain, unpleasant scenery, and doing anything unpleasant for 10 hours is going to be a challenge. But the hike itself I wasn't going to call difficult. Now, how do I justify that? Well, this is the first hike that I've done where you could count on infrastructure being there about every hour in your journey where you would be able to get a civilized bathroom. Every hour you could buy some soft drinks. Every hour you could buy a hot chocolate or a coffee or even some ramen and snacks, I imagine. Mount Fuji actually has a separate road, for lack of a better term, where they have this modified bulldozer that is there and supplies all the huts. There's so much infrastructure there. For example, of course, on every hike, you should be self-sufficient. The weather changes quickly. You need to bring rain jackets, a variety of clothing if things change, and some emergency drinks and water. I myself wound up carrying 3 liters and a bunch of snacks, and I wound up sharing that on the way down with people, so I'm glad I had it. But this is the first hike where you had the option of, instead of carrying all this weight and water, you could just carry a bunch of money and then stop and buy water on the way up. Now, the supplies aren't cheap, but you have that option. Instead of carrying, again, 3 liters of water, you could just carry a wad of cash. And so that could make things easier for you. The other reason I wasn't going to consider it difficult is people have been hiking this mountain for years and centuries, right? And so it's all well established, and you're not going to get lost. You're not going to do any wayfinding. And so that was my initial thought of it not being difficult. Now, I have had some time to think about it and given some more respect to how difficult it is, just because of the physical challenge that can't be avoided with the altitude. So I myself, even when I got to above 3,200 meters or something like that, there were a couple times, 2 times, where I took a breath and I had sort of a visceral reaction because my body inhaled and clearly didn't get the oxygen it was expecting. And of course, for me, fortunately, I took a second breath, everything was fine. If I did get out of breath, I sat down, but by and large, I was fine. But those kind of moments made me appreciate that there are some people that are just not gonna be able to do this for physical challenges. Everything that you needed to do to prepare for Mount Fuji, you would have had to do weeks or months ago. Plus at the top, again, we did the steepest and shortest route. And at the top, there were a number of very steep sections that required hands and feet and scrambling. And so it is a physical challenge and not everybody can do it. As far as scenery goes, Mount Fuji is iconic. It stands alone and can be seen 360 degrees for hundreds of miles. And because of that, Mount Fuji is iconic not just in Japan, but around the world. But because it stands alone, the scenery doesn't change much. Consider on our hike, the parking lot was at about 2,500 meters, something like that. And so you're already up high getting quite a view. And as you climb higher and higher and higher, the view doesn't really change that much. I know some people will disagree with me. Maybe you get above the clouds, maybe you see the sunrise, whatever, but the view really doesn't change much. Take that in contrast to other hikes where you meander through valleys. You go by rivers, by glacial lakes, you go up and you go down, and the terrain changes and reveals itself to you. That doesn't happen on Mount Fuji. When you're climbing up Mount Fuji, all you're seeing is the steep hill ahead of you, and when you turn around behind you, it's really not that much different than it was 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, an hour ago. So who are those two groups that I would recommend climbing Mount Fuji to? Well, again, Mount Fuji is iconic. You can see it from miles around. And so there's that other proverb. Why do you climb a mountain? Because it's there. If you just have a chronic need to stand on top of things, Mount Fuji is kind of the epitome of that. You can see it, go climb it, stand on top of it, pat yourself on the back. Chances are Mount Fuji is just one of many on your checklist, and you want to stand on top of many tall things. If that's your goal, Mount Fuji, have at it. You're going to have a great time. I think the other group of people that are going to get something very, very, very special out of climbing Mount Fuji is people that are overcoming a physical challenge, a medical challenge, a spiritual challenge, an emotional challenge, and you want to set a goal for yourself. And I think Mount Fuji could be very, very special for those people that need to prove to themselves and prove to other people that they can still accomplish great things. And so Mount Fuji, again, it's a name that everybody knows. You'll know it when you tell other people. They'll know what you've done. And again, it's not about bragging, but it's about accomplishing something that will be recognized. And also what makes it special for those people is that there's a shrine on top. And whether you practice Buddhism and Shintoism or not, I think climbing to the top of a mountain and having a temple, having a shrine can add a spiritual element that you wouldn't get if you just got up there and found a pile of rocks or found a gift shop or what have you. And so if you are looking to accomplish something that maybe you don't think you can do but want to try, then yeah, I think climbing Mount Fuji could be very special for you. So would I recommend climbing Mount Fuji? I certainly won't do it a second time because only a fool climbs Mount Fuji twice.
Hi.